Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla1991 here, and on this day 20 years ago, the Peter Jackson 2005 reimagining of King Kong premiered, well at least for the US and UK, as New Zealand apparently got it first. However, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the remake, I thought that it would be suitable to look at my King Kong Capsule Gashapon figures, and as you can see I have 4 from the 2005 movie, and 2 to represent the original film, and I believe that all 6 come from the Japanese company Kaiyodo. Now many of you will know that I'm more of a Godzilla enthusiast, and I have lots of Godzilla high-grade figures in the collection, and as you've seen them all many times and on many occasions. But I also do like Kong as well, and what do I think of these particular miniatures? Well, let's now take a look. Beginning with the one who started it all, the original 1933 King Kong himself. And out of all the Kong Gashapons that I own in the collection, this one is my favourite, as he is the original 33 Kong. First his cap base, which is gold, and written on has what I believe to be a quote, possibly from the picture. It's been a long time since I last watched it, but if you wish to pause and read what it says, then by all means go ahead. Now for the main star of the show himself, and this miniature is just pure perfection, as it recreates the famous climax when he battled the planes on top of the Empire State Building, which is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the original 1933 movie. And the main base represents the top of the building. In his hand we can see he has abducted Andero, and his right arm still has the chain shackle, which is sculpted on. However, the other shackle is missing, as it broke off when he escaped. Because this Gashapon represents the original King Kong, he is all black and white, and I think this only helps to add to the epicness. We can also tell that this is the original because he has that stop motion Willis O'Brien look to him. In my honest opinion, this is truly the best King Kong miniature, and I see Kong as the ancestor to all movie monsters in general, even the king of the monsters himself, Godzilla. And not to mention he was the pioneer of other movies that would follow, not just Godzilla, but also Ray Harryhausen, as well as the works of Peter Jackson, Steven Spielberg, and so many other filmmakers. In fact, Ray Harryhausen himself, when he was 13 years old, even saw the movie on its premiere day at Grauman's Chinese Theatre in 1933, and it was such an inspiration to him. Up next is a rather interesting one because we have what is basically your generic Tyrannosaurus Rex miniature in the old outdated kangaroo pose, which would have never been possible for the real animal because Tyrannosaurus, like all of the dinosaurs, both avian and non-avian, were streamlined beasts. However, this particular miniature is actually from, I believe, Kaiyodo's Dino Tale series, and they do have lots of variants on T-Rex. And when I came across this guy on eBay, I thought that he would make a very good Skull Island Tyrannosaurus, or just Meat Eater as some folks call him, even though I just refer to him as Skull Island Tyrannosaurus. And as you can see, he looks great with King Kong, and it's perfectly ideal if you wish to recreate that famous scene where they fight. I did go online to see whether or not there are any Capsule Gashapons on the Skull Island Rex, and while yes, there were some large figures, but no miniatures that were good enough, so I went for the Dino Tales Gashapon instead, and as you can see, he fits the bill perfectly. I like the green colour scheme, even though the movie was in black and white, and he's all grey. However, in the colorized version, he was a tan brown. This miniature is actually based on the Charles Knight painting, because that's what he reminds me of. Them paintings were decent for their day, but like those statues at Crystal Palace Park, outdated by today's standards. Not good enough if you're a sucker for scientific accuracies, but ideally fun for King Kong. Now we come on to the 2005 Peter Jackson remake, and the first to represent is naturally of course King Kong himself. And this incarnation was, fun fact, portrayed by Andy Serkis, the same performer who gave us the most iconic interpretation of Gollum from Lord of the Rings, also by Peter Jackson. The design of this Kong is clearly based on the silverback/mountain gorilla, unlike past incarnations at the time, and later on Titanus Kong from the Monsterverse, where he's mostly a giant gorilla, but with some human-like portrayals and features. Peter Jackson's Kong, although still has a personality, he's just an oversized gorilla. This Kong has been through a lot, because as you can see, he really is covered in scratch marks, as living on Skull Island is such a tough life, fighting dinosaurs and battling other various monsters and beasties that are just as deadly and dangerous as those killer theropods. Now there are actually 3 other displays featuring Peter Jackson's King Kong, one of him fighting the V-Rex that we'll be taking a look at later, on its own that is. One of him grabbing the plane, even though it's just his arms, and of course the iconic Empire State Building. However, as you can see, I went for the King of Skull Island setup, because I already have the original representing the climax, but I would still like to go for the 2005 version to go alongside him someday. By the way, this is my second Kong, because the peg for the first one that I received on my birthday last year unfortunately deteriorated, and although I attempted to fix him, I placed him back a bit too far and had to order a second, and so far he appears to be lasting well. Our first dinosaur from the Peter Jackson movie, and that is the doomed/fallen Brontosaurus. And as you can see, this Gashapon is recreated the Venatosaurus attack scene, because as we can all remember, at one point during the chaos, when the pack attacked and all hell broke loose, the herd stampeded through a ravine and few of them plummeted to their untimely demise, especially that one guy who let off the Wilhelm scream. I think that it's quite dramatic, and I'm glad that I went for this, because it does show that life on Skull Island really is hard, even for the gentle giants like Brontosaurus, and their portrayal in the film was peaceful, unlike that bloodthirsty Brontosaurus from the original. You have the cliff which is crumbling, and the Brontosaurus herself at death's door. I do like the colour scheme. Blue or light grey are usually the common trademark colour palettes for sauropods. Well, at least in media. To my knowledge, we don't have any clear evidence on what colour these animals were. I mean, I don't know. There are some dinosaurs, like Boreal Pelter, where we do know what colours they were, but sauropods, that I'm not too sure on. But if you guys know, then just please tell me in the comments. But anyway, I think it's most likely that they wouldn't be the same colour as elephants. Despite the movie coming out in 2005, the Brontosaurus looked as if it was modelled on the old outdated portrayals by Charles Knight, rather than the more updated design, that being all straight and streamlined, to which I believe that this was meant to reflect on the interpretation of the time, as this was how Brontosaurus, as well as many other sauropods, were portrayed back in the 1930s. Another good looking one, and as far as I'm aware, the only form of merchandise of the Brontosaurus from the Peter Jackson film. Onto the troublemaker responsible for the stampede, and that would be the fictional relative to Velociraptor, which is Venatosaurus. And out of all the three Skull Island dinosaurs, this one is actually my favourite, and as a kid I was really obsessed with this one. Now, this being a raptor, the first thing that you'll be quick to notice is that he doesn't possess any feathers, and whenever there's a scaly raptor, avian fans will kick off, throw temper tantrums, and have fiery meltdowns big style, all for the lack of any plumage. However, because Venatosaurus is only a fictional creature from the world of make-believe, I say that you could do whatever. Even though they could have maybe added just a little bit of feather in, just to keep everybody happy, but I digress. Anyway, maybe in the King Kong universe, Velociraptor did still possess feathers, but when it evolved into Venatosaurus, it lost all of its fluff, and thus Venatosaurus is a lot bigger than its ancestor. However, nonetheless, Skull Island was still home to some avian occupants. I like the colour scheme, it's just perfect for this ambush killer machine. And looking at this predator, he does have a look of hunger in his eyes, as if he wants to tear you limb from limb. This one does feel quite delicate when assembling, and I had to put them together slowly, gently and carefully, but worth it in the end, because in my honest opinion, he is one of the best, along with Kong and Skull Island's other king, who we're going to take a look at now, who we're going to take a look at right after this. And now for the final miniature, and that will be the fictional descendant to Tyrannosaurus, that being of course Vistanosaurus Rex. And like Venatosaurus, he too is just as epic. Looking at this savage beast, you can tell that he is equipped to survive it on Skull Island, and is designed to take down Megaparanthus Kong. Yes, that's Kong's scientific name. Look it up in case you don't believe me. And like his ancestor, the ultimate killing machine. Well, at least when T-Rex was hunted, because the real Rex was an animal, not a monster. You know what I mean. The colour scheme is blue and the underbelly white, with the mouth being all a flesh colour and looking quite glossy inside as well. He possesses osteoderms on his back, which kind of reminds me of an alligator. However, I think at the time of the movie's release, I believe that Tyrannosaurus Rex in general may have actually been depicted possessing osteoderms on his back. It was a 2005 thing back then, and this was long before the Great Feather debate that came the following decade. But again, as mentioned earlier with Venatosaurus, Vistatosaurus is a fictional dinosaur like Godzilla, and you could do whatever. This is currently the only Vistatosaurus Rex model that I own in the collection, because I actually missed out on the old Playmates figure many years ago, and I would honestly love to purchase a second-hand model someday to go along with my other 2005 King Kong figures. But until then, I'm pretty much satisfied with this Gashapon. Also, I will take Vistatosaurus Rex over Primeval's interpretation of Tyrannosaurus, and also 65's depiction, which looks like a complete rip-off of the V-Rex itself, by the way, in my opinion, any day of the week. Again, out of the whole series, this is another best. So overall, what are my final thoughts on the Kaiyodo, King Kong, Capsule / Gashapon figures? Well, just like the Godzilla and Gamera high-grade models that we've looked at before in the past many times, and will do again in the future, these miniatures have their charm and character, and except for the bases, they're actually quite short when compared to Godzilla, but they'll still fit into any Gashapon collection, as long as it's monster themed, that is. Some of you are probably wondering, will King Kong and the Skull Island dinosaurs appear in future episodes of Kaiju Cryptids? And the answer to that one is, currently at the time of making this video, unknown. Yes, Kong did make a little brief cameo appearance in part 2 of Mission Gorath that I made last year. However, I haven't fully decided on how I want to portray Kong in the show yet, and I'm still deciding on which miniature to use, because personality wise I don't want him to be an MIB, that is, Monster Island Buddies clone. Anyways, as I said at the start, I'm more of a Godzilla nerd, but I do like King Kong. Happy 20th anniversary to the Peter Jackson reimagining, to which I do like, but still inferior compared to the original. This is Dragonzilla 1991 signing out. Take care, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow for the second review on the 20th anniversary to Walk Over Monsters Life Before Dinosaurs with the Collector Edaphosaurus and Dimetrodon, and revisit on the Papo Dimetrodon. Bye for now. Especially that one guy who let off the Wilhelm scream.